All right, let's talk about something that, let's be honest, trips up pretty much everyone at some point: data. How do you go from this chaotic mess of information to what could be your single most valuable asset? We're going to break it down.
So let me start with a question. I want you to think about this for a second. We've all seen it happen. A brilliant idea for an AI project, a super smart team, and it just fizzles out. It fails. What is the one thing that so many of these failed projects have in common?
Yep, it's almost always this: a messy, broken, or, completely non-existent data strategy. Without a solid plan for your data, you're basically building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. It is the #1 reason that so many amazing projects never, ever make it.
So how do we fix this? Well, I want you to start thinking about your data in a totally new way. Think of it like a factory. I mean, you wouldn't just dump a pile of steel and rubber on a factory floor and expect a car to appear, right? You need an assembly line, and it's the exact same thing with data. You need a clear strategy. Our little factory tour has 3 stages, so let's start at the beginning.
Stage 1. Every factory starts with raw materials. For us, that's data collection. This is ground zero. It's all about figuring out what data you actually need, where on earth you're going to get it from, and how you're going to keep it organized right from the start.
And look, this isn't just about mindlessly hoarding data. There are 3 really important things to do here. First, you've got to know your sources and have contracts, or SLAs, that guarantee the data is going to be good. Second, you need a smart sampling strategy if you can't use all the data. And third, and this one's huge, is versioning. It's basically like a save history for your data, so you can always go back in time and reproduce your results perfectly.
Okay, so the trucks have arrived, the raw materials are at the factory door. We don't just dump them on the line, do we? No way. We need quality control. And that brings us to stage 2, governance. This is where we inspect everything to make sure it's clean, compliant, and actually safe to use.
So what does this quality control actually look like on the factory floor? Well, we're checking for completeness and consistency. Are there missing pieces, weird formats? We're also setting up really strict rules for handling PII, and don't worry, we're going to define that in just a second. And of course, we're setting up access controls, making sure only the right people can touch the sensitive stuff. Okay, quick pause here, because this is super important. PII stands for Personally Identifiable Information. It's pretty much what it sounds like: any piece of data that can be used to figure out who a specific person is. We're talking names, email addresses, phone numbers. And handling this stuff correctly, it's not optional. It's a huge legal and ethical deal.
Okay, so our materials are sourced, they're quality checked, they're ready to go. Now for the fun part: building the actual assembly line. In our world, we call this the data pipeline. This is the automated system that's going to turn that raw data into a finished, really valuable product.
Now, this assembly line has 3 critical stations. First is ingestion and validation. That's the front gate where the data comes in and gets its first check. Then you've got feature stores. These are basically your super organized warehouses, storing all the processed data so it's ready for analysis at a moment's notice. And finally, lineage and catalogs. This is the factory's master blueprint. It lets you see exactly where every single piece came from and everything that happened to it along the way. So there you have it, our 3-stage data factory: collection, governance, and pipeline. But that's all theory, right? How do you actually do this stuff day to day? Let's get really practical with a simple checklist you can start using on your very next project. I want you to think of this as your pre-flight check. Seriously, before anyone on your team writes one line of code or even thinks about building a model, you pull out this checklist. It forces you to have the most important conversations up front.
See how this checklist takes our big factory idea and turns it into simple, direct questions? For sources, it's: do we know who owns this data and what quality they've promised us? For privacy, have we found all the PII and do we actually have the legal right to use it? And for validation, what are the hard and fast rules for what clean data even looks like? This is how strategy stops being a buzzword and becomes a to-do list.
Whoa, okay, code on the screen. Don't panic. You don't need to be a programmer to get this. Forget the import pandas stuff. Just look at what it's actually doing. This is our validation rule from the checklist, brought to life in just a couple of lines.
I love this analogy. This little piece of code, it's just a bouncer at a nightclub. That's its only job. It stands at the door and checks the ID of every single piece of data trying to get in. Hey, is your age between 0 and 120? Cool, you're in. Does your email have an @? Yep, go ahead. If the answer is no, you are not getting in. It is that simple.
And that right there is the entire point of all of this. A good data strategy is not some boring document that just sits in a folder somewhere. It's the bridge that connects a big, abstract idea, like we need high-quality data, to a tiny piece of code like that bouncer that does the hard work for you automatically every single time.
So let me just leave you with this one question. Your data is an incredibly valuable asset, maybe the most valuable one you've got. The question is your strategy protecting it? Are you running a well-oiled factory, or are you just sitting on a messy pile of parts on the floor hoping for the best?